Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss a topic under the OOPS, the concept of encapsulation and an access modifiers. Till that, we discussed a lot of topics and we started the OOPS concepts from the Friday sessions, right? We already completed the OOPS, what is an OOPS, and the introduction about the OOPS. And we are finishing the main concept in OOPS is inheritance, right? The main purpose of the inheritance concept is reusability of code. From what the code you can write in one class, you can use it in another class, the main concept of it. And we will see the several types of the inheritance in that. We'll see some more problems on that also, right? Today we are going to discuss a new topic of encapsulation. Okay. The concept of inheritance is for the code reusability. The topic of encapsulation is for the data hiding. Normally, when you are dealing with the real world applications, you have to maintaining your data integrity. Integrity is nothing but you have to maintain the data hiding from the other sources. Direct access. That means suppose if you have taking an example of a banking application, you have some account balance and the account number details and your details, right? You can't directly access from the other sources your account balance, right? And you can't directly modifying your account balance. For modifying of an account balance, you have several steps like that by deposit or by withdraw or by checking of a balance. But you can't directly access it from one option. You can go with a process. Like the same way, encapsulation helps to achieve that. You can't directly access your data outside the class or outside your content. That means restriction of a direct access. It comes under an access modifiers concept, one thing, right? Before going to discuss on the access modifier, first we will complete with the encapsulation. Okay. Firstly, encapsulation is nothing but it is hiding of data, or it is restricting the data of class to other classes. Restricting the data of class to other class. Data of one class to the other class, which it will restrict is restrict direct access. Okay, restrict direct access of the data of one class to the other class. This is simply an encapsulation. Simply you can compare it with a real world an object is like a capsule. What you having, suppose you having any medicine, we are using some capsules, right? Capsule contains inside it medicine. Medicine was surrounded by one capsule, right? If you want to use that medicine, you are having that capsule also, right? The same scenario, the same way your encapsulation is also work. You want to access the data, you can use the encapsulation concept, which first you have to hide and all the things. How can you achieve this encapsulation is we can achieve encapsulation by using a private access modifier. And getters and setters. These are the two things helps to achieve the complete encapsulation concept in your real world programming or anything. Okay. Normally encapsulation we are using a lot in AM also. Why? Because we are dealing with the data. When you are dealing with the data, you have to be restrict the direct accessing of the data. So we are using these getters and setters in the concept of models, in a Sling models in the Java, Sling models in AM. In a Sling models in AM, you have to access a content from the JCR node. For that, we are using the encapsulation concept. the private access modifier and the getters and setters. Okay. Before you want to know complete encapsulation, first we'll discuss with some access modifiers. Then you can get some knowledge regarding the private access modifier. Then we deal with the encapsulation, right? First thing, access modifiers. There are the 4 access modifiers we have. One is a private, another one was a protected, another one was a default, another one is a public. There are the 4 access modifiers we have. These access modifiers are nothing but how can you access your methods or the data outside the class or within the class or in the subclasses. Why we are assigning this access modifier. Okay, simply we are have already used that access modifiers, like public we are already used, without default already we use, but we are not aware about that is a default. Simply you can write like a void method of, then it will be a default. Okay, these are the 4 access modifiers we have. Okay, first private. If you are declaring any method or a variable with a private, if you are declaring any method with a private or any variable with a private or any class with a private, okay, then it has the scope of within class. It has the scope of within the class. Private has the scope of within the class. Okay. First we will see that private. Next we will go with the protected. Next we will go with the default, and next we will go with the public. Okay. Private has you can declare anything. Access modifiers can be applied on class. Access modifier can be applied on class, variables, and methods. On these 3 you can applicable your access modifier. That means you can applicable private, or you can applicable protected, you can applicable default, you can applicable public. Either one of the 4 will be applicable. At least either one of the 4 will be applicable, at least and at most. First we'll see with the private. Okay. You can create a new package. My new package is fine. In this I can create a class for the okay. My class is the private. First you have to be declare a main method. When you create a class, you have to be declare one main method. Okay, this is the main method. Fine. Suppose I can create a variable. Normally it is a one class, right? In class, suppose you can declare a variable with a private. My variable name will be the int balance, suppose. Okay, int balance is my variable. Balance equals to 1000 is my variable. Okay, or else like the way private. Suppose you can declare one method void method 1 of sysort. This is suppose if you are not mentioning any access modifier variable, it will be a default. Okay, suppose here I can mention a access modifier as private, then it will be the private method. Okay, this private method, I suppose I am printing a private method. Okay, private method. Fine. Suppose if I want to access this variable, how can I access the variable? How can I access this balance variable? First you have to create object for your class, right? First you have to create object for your class, and suppose p1 equals to new. This is the way you can create an object for your class. And if you want to access, how can you access? p1 dot, right, p1 dot balance. Okay. Next, if you want to access the method, then p1 dot method name is the method one, right? Fine. This balance is one variable, okay, and this method is one method. Method one is one method. These two are under one class. The class is private. The class is private, right? In this private class, I am using one balance variable and one method of private type. Both are private, and these are using in the main method, right? Within the class I am using. If you observe, this balance is in the private class, this method one is also in a private class, and main is also in a private class. So within the class I am accessing. Within the class means till this, till open brace until to the close brace, all are under class private. So the private variable and the private method I am accessing within the class. So I can get an output here. If you observe, right, I can get an output. Why? Because I am declaring a private variable and a private method. I can access within the class. It has a scope within the class. Suppose these two, okay, these two I can create under one class. The class is private one, okay, the class is private one, okay, fine. I can create a object for private one. Suppose you want to access this balance method and balance variable, you have to be create object for that, right? First private one, the field private one dot balance is not visible. Right. If you observe, these balance and the method one, both are the types of private and under the class private one. So I can't able to access in the this private class. Okay, right? Why? Because private, when you are declaring something with a private keyword, it has only the scope in the range of within the class. So outside the class you can't able to access it. Okay, outside the class you can't able to access the thing. Okay, next thing, I hope the private range you can observe. In before, the same methods I can place in this class and I try to access within the class, then it will be execute. I am getting an output. But when I initialize those things in other class and I am creating object for that class only, right? I am creating object for that class, but it will avoid that. You can't able to access that private fields outside the class. Suppose if you see the field private one dot balance is not visible. Not visible in the sense means this private class not find that, this private class not find that this balance method and method one. Why? Because these are the private instances. The private instances have the only scope within the class. That means it has a scope range of a class, so you can't access outside the class. This is the private. Okay, private access modifier is you can't able to access outside the class. Then how can you access the private instances is the concept of encapsulation. Okay, for that encapsulation is the concept of hiding the data. Hiding the data means you have to hide the data or bind the data to the class, right? To the class you have to bind means which access modifier you have to use, private access modifier. This is the access modifier you have to use to achieve or to get the encapsulation concept, right? Why? Because encapsulation means it has to hide the data. How can you hide? By using the private, right? By using the private only you can hide. Here the private also doing the same thing, right? Private access modifier you can't access outside the class, right? Directly you can't access outside the class the variables or the methods. Okay, fine. Fine. This is the private. Okay, this is the private. The same thing. Next go with the protected. Protected. Here also I can declare a main method. Okay, fine. Main method. This main method, suppose it is one class. Okay, it is a class A. Suppose class A. Okay, class A. I have a variable of protected. Okay, I have a variable of protected int balance. Okay, and protected void display. The same thing what we are doing with the void display. Fine. And here I can print something of it's a protected method. Okay, fine. In before I am here using the private, now I am using the protected. Private has the only class access, right? Then what will be the protected range? Okay, protected, it has the scope of within the class and within a subclass. Subclass means in the child class. Subclass or child class. By using private, it has only the scope of within the class, but by using the protected, you have the scope of within the class, along with the you have the scope in subclasses or child classes. Subclass or child class both are the same term. Subclass is nothing but the class which is inherited by some class, right? The same thing. Fine. Fine. Protected. Within the class I can access. How can I'll show you within the class how it is accessible or not. Okay. I can create one method here. It is also a protected type. Protected void method one or method of. Okay. This is the protected method. Sys out of method in same class. Method in a same class. Okay. Method in a same class. Fine. Suppose if you want to access this method, you can access. How can I access this? First, you want to access the method. How can you access? First, you have to create an object for that, right? Suppose p1 equals to new protected. Fine. p1 dot. What is that method, right? If I run this, I can get an output. I can get an output of method in the same class. That means by creating anything with a protected, I can access within the class. I'll show that, right? Now, in the subclass, suppose if I try to access this, Control C, suppose P2 equals to new A of, right? Suppose I want to directly access this protected variable in the protected class. How can I access? Let's see this out. Or else p2 dot, what is the method? Display. Display is the method, right? If I try to access it, now I can get it, but it is not a subclass of class here, right? But I can get it. Why? Because I am getting, because both are under same package. Both are under same package. Suppose okay, I can access the protected things within the scope of the package range and within the scope of a class range and also within the subclass range. Here you can getting by using, because of it is under the same package. Suppose I'll show you. In the same package, I can create another file for the class. Suppose the same A. Okay, class A. If I run this, then I can get my output. What is protected.java? If I run this file, I can get an output. Why? Because this A, I am creating an object. And I can access that display method. It has a scope in the range of within the package, so you can access it. Suppose the same A class, I can go with the day12 package. Okay, here I can create a new Java class. My class name will be the suppose B. Right. Control B. B. Now it is in another package, right? It will be a class of B, not A. It will be the B. Fine. B. Now I'll try to access this. Further, I can create B class and B. For that, I have to import that B class. Import com dot day12 dot B. Okay. com dot day12. This type com dot day12 dot is not visible. Why it is not visible? Because it is a default. Default has only the range in the class. Okay. Now it will be resolved. Next we will go on to discuss the default. First, I am importing it and I'll try to do this. Now I get an error. Okay. Here you have to be list out where you can get it and where you not, right? First thing. If you created something with a protected, first you can access within the class, okay, and within the package, right, and outside package you can't access it. You can't access outside the package, you can't access. We already seen that, right? First we executed within the class, right, and also within the package also we done that. Within the package also we done that, right, and but outside the package we already done, but we can't able to access it. Why? Because protected has only the scope within the package, within the class, and in the subclass. We not till that we are not see that subclass. Now we'll see. Okay, we are importing that class also, but we are creating a package, but we can't able to access it. Suppose if you see, suppose if I remove this protected, okay, if I remove this protected, you can save this file, and if I go with that, suppose if I try to print the sys out of p2 dot balance, okay, p2 dot balance, p2 dot okay, balance variable consist, right, suppose 1000. It is also default range, by default it takes, so I can go with the public. If I mention it as a public, then now I can get the p2 dot balance. Suppose if I mention a protected or a private, I can't able to do that. If you go with the protected, it has in the scope of the range of within the package, within the class, within subclass, right? It not within the package, so you can't access that protected things. Then suppose if I do in a other way, this protected class inherited from B, okay, this protected class inherited from B, then p2 dot display. The type B is not visible Java, type B. The method display from the type B is not visible Java. Fine. Right? Why I am not getting? Because of I am outside the package, so it will avoid the conflict. So in that scenario, if you are outside the package, then it is not possible to access the protected thing. So must you have to be within the package, and also you can access in the child classes. Suppose it will be a child class. Already I imported the B. Dot display contents from the type. Suppose I am change this with the public. Now I can get it. Sorry, fine. Protected, right? Protected. Fine. Now I have to access by using p1 dot, not p2 dot. Why? Because p2 is outside the package, p1 is inside the package, and p1 is the variable which is a subclass. So I have to create, or I have to access the parent class things by using a child, right? child, right? Now I can get an output of a protected class. I'll try to access by using the B. That is the issue. It is outside the package, but you are inherited to some classes. So in the subclass object, you can access the things, right? In the subclass object, you can access the thing, but within the class, you can't access outside the package. You can understand. If I try to access by using the if I try to access by using the p2 dot display, it throws a error. Why? Because B is a class which is outside the package range, so it can't able to access the protected things. So, but P1 is the object which is a child of class B. So, in the child you can access. By that, I can access the protected things. Okay. In the fourth, access in subclasses or child classes. Okay, in the subclasses or child classes, outside the package you can't access. Access only in a subclass or in a child class. It is protected. Next, default. Default is nothing but you are not mentioning any access modifier to any variable or a method or a class. It has a range of default. It has a range of default. So, default things you can access within the package. Outside the package, you can't able to access. Within the package, in the sense you can access within the class, and also you can access in the different classes. But in the subclasses or else outside the package, you can't able to access. We'll see that. For the default, new, my class is as default. Okay, my class is as default. I can include a main method, right? Main method, fine. Suppose I can declare one thing as int balance equals to 1000, fine, or else void default method, void default method. Okay, see sort of default method, fine. See sort of default method. Whatever. It is a class variable, fine. Void com dot unknown default method. Maybe I think somewhere I'll use this, or else okay, somewhere I'll use that same method with the scope. It will be the conflict. Maybe somewhere I am used the same method. I can mention with a public. Because of that, I am getting the issue. Okay. This is the one method. It is one default method. I am mentioning the name. It is a type. Here I am not mentioning any access modifier, so it will consider as a default. And for the variable also, I am not mentioning any access modifier, so it will consider as a default. So the default thing I can access within the class. First thing I can access within the class. D1 equals to new default of. Okay, fine. D1 dot balance I can access, or else D1 dot default method. Both can be accessed. I can access the both things. I can run this. Fine. I can access the both the things within the class, right? Now, outside the class, this is one class, right? Fine. I have already a.java, right? The same things. I'll remove this simply the protected, okay, and this protected also in the default.java. If you observe, this A class are also in the package of com.data10 and this default is under the package of com.data10. So both are under same package. Okay, I am removing these two. Why? Because already I have a balance, right? So instead of this, I'll try to access. Okay, I can create an object for the class A1 equals to new A, fine. Okay, I can create an object for the A directly. I am not importing it into this class also. Why? Because both are under same. If you observe this class, I am not mentioning any access modifier, so it is also default, so it has the scope within the range. So I am directly accessing that in a other class. If you observe, I am not importing or I am not extend it or I am not inherit anything. I am simply accessing the class. It is also a default type, right? I am accessing it. Already observe that. We can observe with the methods also. A1, right? A1 dot balance I can access. A1 dot display also I can access, right? Why? Because now both are the default things, so I can access it. Now both are the default things, so I can access it. This is a protected method which is in the class A. Both are under same package. I can use that class A object in the default class. I can access it. Why? Because both are under same package. Next, suppose I can inherit. Okay. In the subclass also I can access extends A. Okay, extends A. So now you can access by using a d1 dot, not A. Why? Because the child, right? By using the child. So d1 dot display. You can access. The same thing, right? Here what I am doing, I am accessing through child class or subclass. Next, outside the package. Okay, outside the package I am trying to access the thing. Suppose we have an b.java. It has, suppose I am b.java. This is the b.java, right? Okay, fine. This is the b.java, fine. I can remove this. Okay, I'll remove this. That means now the display is a type of default. Now the display is a type of default. I'll try to access in the protected that means in the default.java. This is the file, latest file I am not using, right? For that, first I am to import com.date12, right? com.date12.b, right? com.date12.b. Now I have to create an object for that B class. Why? Because I am accessing the B things, right? So b1 equals to new b of, right? b1 dot display. I get an error. Why I am getting an error? Because of it is outside the package. So outside the package, it is with a default range. You can't able to access it. Okay, fine. Suppose I'll try to extends B subclass. Now it will be a subclass, right? For the subclass things you can access by using a this class. You have to create an object for default. d1 equals to new default of, right? d1 dot display. If you observe, now I can't able to access the display method. This is the difference between a protected and default. But if you observe, in the protected also we are accessing within the class, within the package, and we can't able to access outside the package. But in the protected we can able to access in the subclasses. But in the default you are not able to access in the subclasses. If you observe, suppose if I declaring that with a protected, then I can access. Why? Because protected things you can access in the scope of a child class. Fine. That is the difference between a protected and the default. The same within the class and outside the package and all the things. Within the subclass you can't able to access. The difference is can't access in subclass. Can't access in subclass in the sense, suppose it is coming from the outside package. Okay, suppose it is coming from the outside classes, you are not achieving by using the subclasses also. Okay, now the public in the sense anywhere you can access anywhere, access anywhere. That means within the project, irrespective of any package, you can access anywhere. Suppose you are creating with a public access modifier. Public has a scope in the project. Access in the project. You can access anywhere in the project. If you observe in before when I am displaying some default method, then I can get an error. Why? Because the default method will be declaring somewhere with the public class. Suppose if you observe here, the public class A is there, right? Public class A. Fine. Now the same thing I am trying to declare here. New file of the class of A. Okay. Public class A. Okay. Public class A, and here also the public class A. I can try to get int balance 1 2 3. Int balance equals to 1 2 3, and public suppose I can use the display method. Here also mentioning this as a public for a while. Public void display. Public void display. Sys out. Hello. Fine. Now if you observe, in before the same method name I am using, I am getting an error. Now I am not getting any error. Why? Because I'll tell you. Public void display. Control S. Okay, fine. If I try to import this package, fine. This is also class A of public, and this is also class A of public. If I try to access the things, sys out of balance. If I try to print the balance, then it will be a error. Why? Because I have to create first object for this. Class A, A1 equals to A of. Okay, A1 dot I can call the anything, balance or the display. A1 dot display. If I run this, it is in the package of day13. It will be run this method. It is a protected method, something it will be run. The same scenario. If I try to run this public string args of public suppose I'll try to print something of what I have to print. First I have to create an object, right? So a1 equals to new a of, then I'll try to print that a1 dot display. Now it will print hello, right? Now it will print hello. Okay, fine. Both are the public. Public has the scope within the range. Public has the scope within the range means outside the package also you can able to access. Suppose the same class name, if I try to create in the same package, then I'll get an error. Why? Because within the package with the same class name you can't able to use the two things. So it will throws an error. Outside the package you can create by using the public, but the public things are you can without an inheritance or within the subclasses you can access anywhere. Outside the package also you can able to access, and outside the classes also you can access. Outside the, that means in this src folder anywhere in the day2 also you can access the same class. Suppose if I have this default.java which is as a public class type, or the public methods or the public variables I can access these things by creating an object for that class in the day 9 and day 8 and day 7 anywhere in the package or in the project you can use anywhere. That is the public scope. Public scope is you can access anywhere. That means in subclasses you can access. Next, in package and in package, within package and outside package. Outside package you can access, and within class also you can access. These are the four things. Public is like a major thing. Suppose if you observe, private is the more restricted. Protected is somewhere lenience. Default is somewhere lenience than protected. Public is it will be a free bird. You can access anywhere. Here, in the encapsulation concept, we are using the private access modifier to achieve the encapsulation. Encapsulation means you have to hide the data. For hiding a data, for the hiding of data, you have to be bind the data to one class, right? Bind the data to only a single class. Then how can you do that is, suppose in the data in package only, I can create a class file. Okay, my class is a, suppose bank is a class. Bank is a class. In this bank class, I can create a private variable of private balance. Okay, private balance. Encapsulation is mainly helps to hiding the data. Data can be stored in a variables, right? So bank balance. Okay, balance is a variable. Suppose I can mention it as a double type. Okay, double type. And another thing as a private string account number. Suppose string account number. Okay, and also I can go with the any other variable. Suppose both are the fine. Okay, bank name. Suppose bank name. No need of mentioning it as a private, right? So string bank name. Bank name equals to, suppose ABC. ABC is a bank name. Fine. ABC is a bank name. It will be the fine. You have to be do some things. Fine. Now I have a scenario. I am using a one other class. It is of a customer. Okay, customer is one class. Customer is a class. The customer, what his intent is, the customer is extended from the bank class, extend from the bank class. That means he can access the variables of the balance and the account number, right? He can access the variables of a balance and an account number. Fine. His intent is that one. Okay. His intent is that one. Suppose a customer want to perform a deposit method. Customer want to perform a deposit method. First I can include a main method. It is the main running file. The customer intend to perform a deposit, void deposit. Okay. Void deposit. Here intend to perform a deposit method. Suppose he want to deposit, he can access the class things, right? Suppose my balance is somewhere of suppose I can initialize, I am not initialized now, till now. Suppose my balance is suppose 1000, okay, and the account number something, yeah, we can differ somewhere there. My balance is 1000. Suppose he is intent to deposit some money. That means his balance has to be increment. His balance need to be increment. How? Right? Suppose it is a customer class. It was inherited from that. It can able to access that customer dot balance, right? Customer dot balance plus equals to, suppose he want to deposit 100 rupees, right? In a scenario, if you observe, why I am not getting, because of private has only the scope in the range of within the class, so I can't able to do or access the variables outside the class. Suppose if you observe, I can mention it as a public of int sim, the balance or bal equals to 1000, the same value, okay, same value. If I try to access this bal in place of current dot bal, if I try to access this bal, why? Because it is not a static variable, you can't access through the class names. Okay, I can access directly. Why? Because it is not a instance variable also, it is directly a variable, so you can directly access it. Balance plus 100. Now it is not an issue. Suppose in the scenario I'll try with a balance, it will throw an error. Why? Because a balance is not a field visible for your customer class. Now how can I perform that, right? If you want to perform, you want to access the value, and then only you have to be performed. But it is as a type of private, but I have to perform a deposit method. Then how can I perform is the concept of getters and setters. Getters and setters are nothing but you can create a method in the same class. Suppose it is not possible to access this balance variable in the customer class. That means outside the class I can't able to access that variable. Then what is the way to you have to access that variable? Within the class only you can access that variable, right? You have to understand one thing. If you are declaring something with a private, you can't able to access outside the class, but I need that in the outside the class. But you know only one thing, if you are declaring a variable with a private, then you can access only within the class. Outside the class you can't able to access. Then how can you access it? Is simply a create with the type of public a method of suppose you want to returning something, right? Getter is nothing but you want to get something. Control C, the same return type. And suppose you want to get the balance, right? Get balance is my method name, any name, it will be an any name. In this method what I will do is I'll simply return this balance. I can access this, right? Why? Because in the same class I am doing the perform. This balance variable I am trying to accessing in the same class, but what I am doing? But I am not directly accessing. I can go with one method that is of a get balance. That is the get balance is a method. By using this method, I can try to access that balance variable. Simply, now what you can do, you can access this get balance method, right? You can access that get balance method. You can access that get balance. Get balance is a method, so it has to be stored somewhere, right? Int, suppose int bal equals to, for suppose, or double. Why? Because get balance is a tuple. Double get balance plus 100. Okay, fine. Now my balance will be the updated. Now my balance will be the update. But where it has to be updated? Where it has to be updated? It has to be updated. It has to be updated in the. It has to be updated in the bank class, right? Simply it is fine. Simply it is fine. Suppose you have two things. One is a B1, customer 1 and the customer 2. Customer 1 and the customer 2. In a scenario, suppose I am not declaring any variables. Customer C1 equals to new customer. Okay, new customer. And the same thing. It is of C2. Okay. This is a person 1 or a customer 1. It is a customer 2. Customer 1 have different balance and customer 2 have the different balance. And the customer and also what the thing? Customer 2 have the other account number, customer 1 have the other account number. They will be the segregate, right? Suppose you want to perform C1 dot deposit. Suppose C1 dot deposit. C1 dot deposit. Then you are performing. Suppose this deposit method by default it can accept the one amount of into AMT. Okay. Suppose here you can pass the AMT amount of 102. This is the amount you are intend to add. Okay. But C2 dot deposit. Customer 2 intend to deposit an amount of 500. Okay. 500.1. It is an int type, right? So I can't mention 500. It is one different value and it is one different value. It is a C2 dot deposit and it is a C1 dot deposit, right? But I can access the get balance. Get balance is the only one method. It will not segregate for anyone. It was not segregate for the anyone. So it is same for the all. Fine. Now for a while it is fine. This is the way you can get the private things. How can you get the private things is simply you create a public method then returning that value. Okay. Suppose here I am declaring a value, right? In the scenario you want to set the values. Set the values in the sense means suppose in a scenario you can observe here I am get the updated balance, but this balance has to be updated in the here, right? This balance has to be updated here, but I have only the getter method. For that you are required one setter method. Setter method is a void return type, void type, and suppose set balance. Suppose set balance is the method. Okay. Set balance is the method. For that I can pass any value. Suppose int val. Suppose int val. Okay, int val. Simply you can access that, right? How can you access? Balance equals to val. This is the way you can set what the things you have to be do, or setting a value or get that value you can do within the class only. You have to do within the class. Then you want to set the balance, right? You want to set the balance, then set balance, right? Set balance of amount bal, right? Set balance of bal. Okay, it is of type double type conversion, type differences. So I'll take here as a double. For a while it is a double. You have to understand the concept, not the types. We already know the types, right? Simply it will be fine, right? Simply it will be fine. You can do one thing. Here I can print the sysout of C1 dot get balance. Okay. After performing of the C1 dot deposit, what is the balance? And after performing C2 dot balance, C2 dot deposit, I want to perform C2 dot get balance. Fine. C2 dot get balance. Fine. Now if I run this, initially what is the bank balance of the value is 1000, right? If I perform the deposit 1 with the value of 102, it has to be 1102. Next it has to be 1602. I am expecting that output. Customer.java and run this. 1102 and 1500. 1102 and 1500. Why? Because C1 is different object, C2 is a different object. Then C1 dot balance is different, C2 dot balance is different. So C1 dot balance is initially 1000, C2 dot balance also initially 1000 only, right? C1 dot balance also initially 1000, C2 dot balance also initially 1000. Why? Because both are the different things, both are the different objects, right? This is encapsulation. Encapsulation is nothing but the private instances or the private variables. How can you access outside the class? That is the encapsulation concept. How can you access? For accessing the variables, you can mention a getter method and remember one thing. It is not necessary to mention the get. It is just one method. You are creating with a name. It is not at all any rule to mention. For the getters you have to be mentioned get, and for setters you have to mention set. It is justly for our identification. You are mentioning. If you are mentioning with the balance also, it will be the fine, but it will throw an error here. Why? Because balance and the get balance are the different. Okay, fine. Where am this? Now only the output all the same. Okay, suppose if you do this again, Control C, then output will be the change. Suppose if I intend to add 104, then now output will be 102 plus 104. It will be the 206 and the 1000. 1206. My output will be the 1206. Why? Because C1 balance only. C1 balance is 1000. C2 balance is 1000 initially. You are updating different amounts, right? C2 with a different thing and C1 with a different thing. Fine. Here what I am doing? Here initializing with some value. Instead of initializing with some value, how can you add the other values also? Now, the same way you want to access the account number also, what we have to be do? For setting the account value, you have to be create a getter and the setter. How can you? Normally, there is one simple thing, generate getters and setters for the account number. This is the way it can be an easy process, but you have to be understand how can you create and how. Normally if you are using this approach, it will be create get in front of your variable name for the method and the set in front of your variable name for the setter method. And how can you set the value? Suppose you want to set the values for the C1. C1 is one customer one, right? I want to set the customer one value. Suppose C1 dot set account number, right? C1 dot set account number in the sense means you are setting the customer one account number. What is the customer one account number? It will be something of 123. Okay, 123A. 123A is the customer one. Okay, and the same scenario, and in the same scenario you are performing with the C1 dot balance or the C1 dot set balance. I want to set the balance of 1000 or 1000.1. okay, it is the balance of the customer 1. Now I am setting the account number for the customer 2. Setting the customer 2 account number is it is of 123B. 123B is the customer 2. I am setting the C2 dot set balance. Setting a balance of customer 2. It is as a 10,000, suppose 10,000.102. okay, it is the balance in a customer B and it is the balance in a customer A. Fine. Two customers I have. I am setting the account numbers and the balance. Normally you are dealing with the account creation time also. They are directly not accessing the things. They are doing by this way also. They are doing by this only. They are setting the variables with the setter methods and get the things with the getter methods. Okay. Now suppose you want to perform the deposit. Now you want to perform a deposit. A deposit method is already there, right? Right. Deposit method is already there. You can access. Suppose you can access like C1 dot. C1 is not possible. Why? Because C1 is the current instance, but it is outside the main method. Main method execution starts from here. So C1 it doesn't know. So you can directly access. How can, suppose you can store with a double type, double balance. After deposit you have to be updated to somewhere, right? Double bal equals to, like in the control Z. In the same way, set the balance of bal. Now after this I can check the initial balance. Sysout initial balance of customer initial balance of customer. How can I know the customer name? How can I know the customer account number is C1 dot get account number. By this I can get the account number. And what you want to know? C1 dot balance. C1 dot balance. Instead of get balance I mentioned it as balance, so I can use it, right? And this is the initial thing. Fine. And for the C2 also I am doing the same thing. Okay. For the C2 also I am doing the same thing, but here I have to mention C2 dot get account number, C2 dot balance. Fine. And the same scenario, first I can perform C1 dot deposit. Okay, C1 dot deposit of I can perform a deposit of 10,000 to this sorry, it is not a string type, right? Deposit of 10,000. okay, for the customer 1. C1 means customer 1, right? So again C1 dot get account number and C2 dot get account number, but after deposit balance of customer, right? The same way C2 dot deposit of C2 dot deposit of the amount should be like 1000. Fine. Now the same thing after deposit. After deposit, balance of the C2 dot get account number and C2 dot balance. Right. Now I'll run this. Now I can run this. First, the initial output. Right. Initial balance of customer 123A is 1000.1. Initial balance of customer 123B is 10,000.102. After deposit of the balance, customer 123A is 10,000 I am deposit, right? So it will becomes 11,000.1. Okay. And after deposit balance of customer 123B is, initially it will be 10,000. Now I am adding the 1,000. So 11,000.102. Okay, fine. This is the way you can get the data. This is the way you can get the data in a encapsulation concept. Encapsulation is simply you have to hide the data from the customer. You are modifying it, but you are restricting the data to access directly. That is, you have to be understand. For that, you have to be mentioned with a private things. But how can you set the things is by using setters? How can you get the things is by using the getters? Setter is a type of void. Getter is a type of the type of the variable you are declaring. Suppose here I am mentioning as a tuple of type of double. So here my return type of the balance is where is the balance? Return type of the balance is double. If you go with the string, the return type of the string is account number is string. Why? Because I am mentioning here as a string type, right? This is simply encapsulation. Encapsulation means you have to be hide some data and you have to be perform some things in a different classes. You have to perform things in a different classes. Simple application like you can perform an ATM. In the ATM, the different customers you have. For the every customer, you have to perform deposit and the withdrawals. For deposit and the withdrawal purposes, you want to access the balances. Balances is from the class of the different class. It is a private things you can access by using the getters and setters. You can perform deposit and withdraw operations and do the things. We are using the same the getters and the setter approaches in the AEM sling model concept also. Why? Because you want to retrieve the data from one node. We are mentioning or we are using a private instance. Why? Because always you have to be in a programming, you have to be hide the data. You have to hide the data. So for that, we are go with the encapsulation process. Clear? Okay, thank you.